and gentlemen, hello, back on video. Welcome back to another episode of the Universal Lens. I'm John Emilio, and that
And I'm
is
and I'm the music man, Henry Belcher. I was playing the intro music.
that
John
was
Cameo.
him. That was
John
him. Look at us
Cameo.
now. Now we're doing this video thing. I'm actually in Pennsylvania right now, and Henry's back home in Jersey. But this is going to be the setup, so get used to it. If you guys like looking at our faces,
Sorry.
well, if I said if you like looking at our faces, this is what you're going to be seeing. I think we're
Yeah.
going to stick with this format
Yeah.
going forward.
Well, we'll see. We'll see what the people have to say.
I don't know if I want to know.
They go, "Oh my God, you were better before."
Guys, keep it to audio. Do
Yeah.
us all a favor. Keep it to
You have a
audio.
face for radio.
Uh, I've heard that before. Yes, but I don't have a. See, here's my problem. I don't have a radio voice. You do. You have
No.
no. See, you don't think so because it's your voice, but you actually have a good radio voice. Like I tend to swallow words sometimes when I speak. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just the Brooklyn to me. Where I was brought up.
Yeah. No. Also, we hear ourselves differently than the other person hears us. I
Uh,
don't know if
uh,
that makes sense,
Absolutely.
right?
Agreed.
Like if you hear yourself on a playback, you're like, "Oh my God, that's my voice." But
So,
yet, when you're
yeah,
speaking live, you don't hear that.
well, no, because you're not paying attention to your voice, which is funny because that guy, Alex Mills, that I kind of mention once in a while, when I did his spiritual class or retreat, one of the things, well, the main thing he makes you do is record. I told you that, I think I mentioned this to you, record every day.
Yep.
And you hear your voice, and it's the judgments that come up when you hear your voice, not just the tone of your voice, but it could be, oh my God, what did I say? That sounds stupid. And it's teaching you to have compassion for yourself through that, which is a kind of a cool portal because I never liked listening to myself on a videotape for some reason.
Yeah.
And now I've kind of maybe not gone numb to it. Maybe is the wrong word, but I've acclimated to it, and like I've started listening to myself as an impartial person. So when I listen to our podcast again, I don't listen to me as me. I listen to me as, hey, who's this guy and what's he saying?
Yeah.
It's just perspective, so it's kind of cool. But
No, it's pretty useful. Think about it. Remember when you wrote your book, and after you wrote your book, part of it was, we can talk about this in some sort of podcast form, and all the questions that came up, who am I? Like, what do I have to offer?
yeah,
And when
who
you and when
wants
you
who
go
wants to hear me? Absolutely.
when you get into that rabbit hole, well, you'll never pick up a mic, you'll never move anybody, you'll
Nope.
never persuade anybody, you'll
No.
never teach anybody about what you're trying to teach them. So part of the journey, and good for him, is to make yourself comfortable with yourself. You
Yes.
know,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's a great message. That's a great thing.
Oh, sure. I mean,
I'm still working on that myself. Like I'm watching myself right now. It's
I
horrible. It's
well,
because
well,
you want to
this is another
be.
layer. Now we have sound and video. This is a
Yeah,
whole new layer for us.
it's like, people think you just turn this thing on, and no, like I have natural light coming from the side. That's
Oh my
just
God. Yeah.
that's just a mistake. It's just a coincidence. I have, but
Is it?
otherwise,
Well, but I actually think the lighting is good. We spent, by the way, a good 10 minutes trying to adjust the lighting. I'm in like a bonus room in my house in PA over my garage. I'm trying to open a shade, close a shade, put a light on, close the light off. So
yeah,
fun stuff. So your son graduated.
yeah, brother man,
Congratulations. There you
yeah,
go.
yeah.
Welcome to the club of college students. This is
Thank you,
great.
man. Thank you. I gotta tell you, man. I hate to get sappy, but literally, this is a very sappy moment, where we tend to reflect a little bit and just look at pictures, and my wife is pulling up pictures, making a collage,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
it it does tear you up, it tears you up a little bit because he was little, he was a cute little thing and doing cute little baby things. There was a picture where he's leaning in the bathtub and you can see his butt.
Uh-huh,
So
uh-huh.
little kid, and now he's a big 6 foot chooch, you know, with the long hair, and Mr. Cool. It's just nice. Yeah, it's nice to see. And actually, that's part of what I wanted to ask you is, So as we don't like to label, we don't like to stick labels on ourselves. Say I have anxiety, I am Mr. Anxious. But coming from the anxiety angle, it was
Yes.
very hard for me to ever enjoy a moment, ever enjoy an event. And remember, we speak about this in the how do I say? It's a term where I say your daughter's recital. Remember, we've spoken about this where when you go to your daughter's dance recital, don't sit there going, "Oh my God, these are 5 year olds that are horrible dancers with this stupid
Yeah.
choreographed coordinated thing," and oh my God. If you look at it like that, yeah, you're not going to take any enjoyment out of it, and you miss the whole thing. I don't want to do that right now. And part of anxiety is that you tend to ruminate or obsess over those things that make you anxious. That's part of what. So here we are, like today. Later on, we're gonna have a little party for him, a little get together. Literally, it's a little
Yeah.
something, barbecue, whatever. We're gonna have people. I want to be able to be there and enjoy that moment
Okay. Yeah.
without my mind doing the marathon that it does, where even though there's people there I am, I'll distance myself, not on purpose, but it's just a result that happens because this thing just keeps going, and you end up, you know, like in purgatory. It's hard to explain, but your mind's doing one thing, around you is doing another thing, and you're gonna miss the moment. You're gonna miss the moment. People are gonna leave. You're gonna be cleaning, and all of a sudden, when you're cleaning, you're like, well, that's it. What the hell just happened here? Well, you were busy ruminating, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Give me some tips.
Uh,
What do you recommend
I mean,
uh
listen, it's very natural for the mind to want to, you know, kind of play highlight reels of life when you're going through something like that, especially for your son's graduation, where it might have, start pulling memories all over the place as you're kind of going through the day. I mean, the best thing you could do is just keep bringing your focus back to where you want it to be, right? Because you want to be able to soak this day in, and in order to be able to soak it in, you need to be present. Like I mean, and you make a really good point, which is it's not an easy thing to do, especially if you're going through something like that. I mean, the mind's natural tendency is going to be to remember when Cookie was a kid, and you're looking at him and all these memories of him growing up, like you were saying before, kind of stuff flashing through your head, or what's going to be next, and you're not there. So the best advice I could give you is the same way when you're meditating, just bring your focus back to where it is. See those, so you can't stop those memories or those thoughts from coming up, but you can see them and just let them pass and come back to where you are. Let them pass and come back to where you are, and you'll start to see that you get to kind of anchor in what's going on more than you know being taken down that rabbit hole or going for that ride down memory lane. Which I'm not, listen, I'm not trying to knock going down memory lane. It's nice, but when it's pulling you away from something you want to experience or it's causing you pain or suffering, that's when it's not a beneficial tool anymore, right? So like you want to use that as a tool. So if you want to stay present today and you see that these memories start coming up and you're like, that's great, but I want to be here, I want to enjoy this day, I want to be present, then just it's as easy as just saying just be there.
yeah,
But it's
no,
like
yeah.
like everything else we do, right? Just
I I
guide your
get what you're saying.
focus.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Again, you pick the movie you want to run, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I get that.
Exactly.
I get that. No, part of my consultation
My
was
consultation.
was in part for work. you know, I the thing that keeps popping into my mind,
Is
bringing
work.
me out of the moment,
Oh, I got you.
is not so much continuously to harp on the highlight reel of his life. No, and that's welcome because it brings me in the moment. It
Sure.
brings me, but I'm more the guy who struggles with, my wolf, my bad wolf. is going to be the work one, the one that will come from behind and go, yeah, here's a work thing you should be thinking about, not this party, not this moment.
Is there anything that you could do about? Is there anything you could do about that work thing right this second?
You're so wise.
No, but is I mean,
No.
sometimes it sounds so simple, but it's
Yeah,
so
man.
hard for people. Even for me, it's hard for you to see it in that exact moment. But it's yet so simple. Is there anything you could do right now that's gonna affect that? And I'm not talking about get on your laptop and try to figure something out. Like,
Yeah,
no matter what avenue you want to take, no change could happen in the next 6 hours of your
no.
son's graduation party.
Yeah, no.
So I mean, there's so many sayings like put it on the back burner, just let it go, let it be. Just you kind of make a choice. I want to be here right now,
Yeah,
and that's it. And but I get what you're saying. Like that thought still is going to come up. But Henry, what about tomorrow? This is going to happen at work. And Henry, what about this? And Henry, what? It's you gotta treat it like that. That the little kid that's tapping you on the shoulder, going, "Daddy, Daddy," and just you you know it's there, you realize it's there, you don't try to push it away, you just don't give it any credence, and you feed the right wolf, and you end up being able to experience that day. And what happens is eventually you'll go 3 hours and you'll realize, because that thought will come back, for the last 3 hours I didn't even think about work. All of a sudden it disappeared, and you start to realize, well, wait a second. So if it wasn't there then and it's there now, why is this thought so important now again that it's here, but it wasn't important for the last 3 hours? Because that's just how the mind works. And once you realize that, you stop taking the mind so seriously, really, and in general, you stop taking everything so seriously, and you just start enjoying what's happening in your life right now, and you become just completely present in it. So I mean, it's the same formula no matter what we've done, right? We always say full circle, right? So even for something like this, it's the same formula we've always been working on. Same formula we've always been working on. It's that it's we call it attachment. So attachment has many forms. This is an attachment to a work problem or attachment to a worrying mind. You're attached, or you or this whoever it might be, me, myself, is attached to this worry or this thought that I got to take care of this. I got to take care of this, right?
yeah.
For people with when I had experienced OCD, when I was really in the throes of it, it was John. This thought is very important. John, this thought is very important. John, this I attached to. I need to answer this. I need to answer this. I need to make sure this is okay. And now take that attachment and you could put it to attachment of reminiscing, attachment to physical objects, attachment to people, attachment to anything. It's where you've gone from experiencing something to saying, this is who I am. This is I've identified. I've now connected with this. This is what I need to be. And that's where it goes to a different level. So it's like, do you want to be the guy who's attached to the thought patterns about work, or do you want to be the guy who's experiencing the day with your family and your son? And it's a choice that you get to make, albeit not easy sometimes, right? We know that it's not always easy to do it, but the more you do it, the easier it gets, because you start to be able to watch what's going on in the mind a lot with a lot more expertise, or a lot more. You become more savvy at it.
No, that was well explained. Well explained, well articulated, and I could see it. Like I could see as what you told me. So now I'm gonna have a little strategy going. My little strategy is gonna be: should any intrusive thought come in at the moment or while the little barbecue's going,
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna focus on, let's say, strategically focus on something else, like whatever I'm doing at the moment. And like honestly, I'm gonna come like real clean. Like sometimes I feel like a bad husband in the sense like I see, yeah, like this. My wife is going nuts, like doing this, doing that, doing
Oh
this,
yeah,
and I'm just
I can see
watching,
that.
and I'm like, I want to help, but yeah, I don't even know how. And then so you know what I'll do? She's a good wife, so she's like, just get out of here, don't worry about it. And I don't worry about it, so I'll be off in the corner by myself ruminating while everybody else is literally here, and I don't want that. So I have to bring myself out from the outer space wherever my mind wants to go, I got to come present. And I like a strategy I'm going to have is just to, there's a lot to do and there's a lot to, let's say, serve. There's a lot to fix. There's a lot to prepare. There's a lot to, so I'm going to bring myself here for the same, like the exercise of loading the dishwasher, not just to load the dishwasher, but load the dishwasher with purpose. I'm going to take that example and just kind of apply it
Sure, but that's
here,
mindfulness, absolutely.
right? So like fill the potato chip bowl with purpose, not just open the bag, you know.
Yes,
Uh,
and that's very important, filling the potato chip bowl.
right. Yeah. Make sure the burgers have cheese. Perfect. Prepare if
So
you're gonna prepare.
yeah,
Prepare.
just being. So listen, if you could, if in a perfect world, if you were able to choose being present with your family or
Or anything else.
taking or anything else, which one would you choose?
You know it. Yeah, the first one.
So then, so that I
Yeah.
mean, it's put when you put the question like that. If you had a choice, but the beauty of it is you do have a choice. But with this hierarchy of importance that our mind likes to create, and it's a false hierarchy at the end of the day, because nothing is ever more important than experiencing the moment we're in, because that's all life is ever consisted of. Yes, planning for the future, we get that, right? So we're kind of um, zooming in a little bit on really what's important, not on tasks that have to be completed, and you want to plan certain things out, sure. But if you have a choice to experience a moment with your family or anything else, and your answer is yes, I value experiencing this with my family and my friends, wherever I am, I value experiencing the moment as it is and not wanting to worry about things I can't control right now. Well, if the choice you want to make is I want to be here now, then make that choice. Not that your mind's going to play nice all the time, because it's not, because we always said your mind is built to protect you. It's not built to be a rainbows and sunshine, everything's always great machine. It's there to say, Henry, that's great. You want to think rainbow, or John, you want to think rainbows and sunshine. But what about this on Tuesday? What about this on Wednesday? What about,
Yeah.
we need to, we're not worrying about foraging for food or getting shelter, because those are things we don't have to concern ourselves with really that much. At least a majority of the world doesn't. There's still, unfortunately, is a part of the world that does, but we don't have to worry about that. So our mind worries about other things. Okay, well, Henry, you don't have to worry about shelter and food right now, but we got to worry about if that granite gets delivered on time. We got to worry about if that guy cuts the stone properly. We got to worry about that idiot, person who's complaining about this or that. Do you really need to worry about that right now? Right now. I'm not saying on Tuesday it's not something you're going to deal with, because it's a situation that comes up and we have to deal with situations. But right now, is there any benefit
No.
to engaging that thought pattern? And the answer is going to be no. And you choose to want to be present with your family. So then it's a very simple choice, but it's making that choice and saying, I want to be here. This is where I want to experience. That'll take care of itself on Tuesday. And people with anxious minds, it's a little bit more difficult, because they have a what if, they have a what if question asker that's on repeat. You only have that repeat button on your
Yeah.
iPod, just goes, it finishes a loop and it starts again. It
No.
finishes the loop and it starts again. So it's learning how to unclick that repeat or stop paying attention to it. Like that
Yeah.
clock
I
in the background.
I think what happens is also you become so used to worrying, you become so used to having anxiety that should there be a moment that you don't have it, you're wondering, oh my God, well, we ought to
I don't
have
give a shit
some,
anymore. Wow, what's wrong? Yeah.
we ought to have an anxiety driven
You've
moment right now.
attached, yeah, because you've attached to being, I say you, that person, whoever it
No,
might be, attached to being an anxious person. It's
yeah,
attachment, right? So Eckhart Tolle, and this is one of, for me, was one of like those aha moments. I mean, then there's a million aha moments in life if you look for them. So you stop, I start appreciating them when they come up and stop looking for them. But was when I learned about attachment, like how the mind attaches, well, it's identification and attachment, but how the mind attaches something. So people will say, if you have a nice car or you have a couple of dollars in the bank or whatever it might be, a physical, material thing that you might have, there are people who, you ever notice somebody who their identities are their things, like this guy has a restaurant, 4 cars, and this and that, and he walks around showing people about it. That shows you that that person is like their identity is attached to those things.
Yeah.
So if we took those things away, what would they be?
Uh,
Uh, I don't
Probably
know.
nothing as far as they're concerned.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
far as they're concerned, they'd be a mess. They well, what am I now? If I'm not this, what am I? So when I learned about attachment, I was like, hold on a second. So I could enjoy things, but not attach to them. If I have a car, I can enjoy my car, but that car isn't who I am. If I have this or that or a job, I can enjoy and experience it. But if it was taken away tomorrow, what am I left with? The same thing I had before I had it. I'm still experiencing life. If I have that in my life, I experience it. If I don't have it in my life, I don't. I mean, take it to a grander level. People who speak about losing family members, right? Well, yes, it's tragic. And of course, it's sad. I don't think anybody would ever say it wouldn't be. But are you attached to life being a certain way? The people who suffer after they lose somebody is because they attach to their life, they identified their life as a certain way. So they weren't experiencing these people and enjoying being there. They were, this is who this person is. If you ever hear this, I don't know what I do without you. And this isn't to make light of a situation where somebody loses somebody, but think about it for a second. If I'm attached to a certain person, and I'm not talking about caring for somebody and loving them, being like I'm like I don't have an identity if you're not around anymore. It could be not even losing somebody in death, but somebody, a wife breaks up with you, you get a divorce, or you two good friends have a falling out for whatever reason, and that
Yeah.
person's not around anymore. They get, well, when am I without this person? Well, why does why where is this attachment to having that person makes you who you are? Like your experience shouldn't be hinged on being attached to something. It should be, this is what's in my life right now. I'm going to appreciate it. I'm going to treat it with care. I'm going to love it. But if it's gone tomorrow, that experience was there. And now I experience what's afterwards. And while that sounds a little cold sometimes, and
It
people might,
does.
it does, right?
It does.
But think about it for a second. I probably love more in the moment, really love and really appreciate more as I experience it, instead of saying I don't want to even think about life without this person. Like I don't know what I would be. And while that's, look, you, I could say, yeah, sure, I wouldn't want somebody I care about to pass away. Of course not. Nobody does. But if something horrific does happen, am I attached to it being a certain way, or will I allow those emotions to be there after it's gone and just experience life as it comes? When you're experiencing life and you're not attached to it, there's a flow. Things flow in and out. I mean, because it's part of life. Like we're not here forever. Nothing's here forever. A car, our money, our houses, family, friends, none of this is here forever. So what's this attachment to needing it to be like that all the time? Like this, things can't change. This is the way life has to be all the time. And when it does, and when people suffer immensely, because remember the good old days, right? Remember the good old days. There's a scene in The Office where, I don't know if you watch The Office.
No, I
You
mean
ever
I
watch?
don't watch it, but I know exactly. Yeah, I love it.
So Andy Bernard, Nardog was his nickname on the show. Andy Bernard. This is towards the end of the show. He says, "I wish." He goes. There's a picture of the group or something. And he goes. Those were the good old days. And he looks and he goes, I wish somebody would be able to tell us when will tell us we're in the good old days when we're actually living them, instead of thinking, well, those were the good old days afterwards, right? And that's all about saying, I'm here and I'm experiencing it. I'm not labeling this as a certain way. I'm just going to experience it, and every day becomes. It's almost like every day becomes the good old days at that point, because I'm not needing things to be the way they were, the way they might be, just at the way they are. I know we went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but
No, your advice to somebody who hasn't experienced an awakening would sound super cold and crude,
yes.
right? It's
Yeah,
gonna
especially
sound
when I
like
said about losing somebody, which
it's gonna sound like
absolutely.
it's not understandable. But once you realize why you said what you said in the context of what we're talking about, it makes sense. It's just that we're so attached. Speaking of, we're so attached to that unconscious world, or we're so attached to that mode that we're just usually in, that what you're saying is crude. It doesn't make sense, but it actually makes a lot of sense. And like
It
you said, I am more loving I am more appreciative in that
Exactly.
moment even than you are, because you're hung up on the story is what happens.
Exactly.
And not you, but
That's an excellent way to put it.
you're hung up on the story, and instead of the reality or
And
the moment.
the moment. Exactly.
Because look, it's I'm gonna bring it to something very benign. So I told you we're going through the pictures, the baby pictures, his cute little butt and his cute little face, and when he, if you get caught up, you're gonna end up going, oh my god, what? You know. And I'm watching my wife go
You're
through that right
suffering.
now.
You
Yeah,
create suffering. Yeah.
I'm watching her go through it where she can tear up on a, like, literally like that.
Yeah. And the emotion, I mean, listen, the emotion that's involved with it is justified, right? So, like, this isn't saying that if somebody in my somebody I cared about passed away, I wouldn't have an emotion over it. Of course I would. There would
The
be a sadness that I would feel. Go ahead. Eh.
the, the trick is how quickly does that turn into actual suffering?
Oh,
It,
it can if you're not aware, if you're not
it turns
awakened.
into suffering,
Boom.
John. I'm watching it happen,
Takes
and
seconds.
I'm watching it happen, and where it goes into something so beautiful. You're watching you're literally watching a caterpillar turn into a butterfly, for lack of a better word,
Yeah.
and you're suffering over it, where you should be enjoying the process as opposed to suffer over it.
Yes.
It's a very thin line. It's a very thin line. It's
And a lot of it's okay. We're going to use the word perspective because that's something a lot of people can relate to. Instead of like being awakened, it's your perspective. It's how you're looking at that situation, right? So we'll say I'm awakened because I'm watching it happen. I experience things. I don't attach to them. But if using the word, change your perspective. So if your perspective is, you know, things have to be a certain way, you know, and I get how people can reminisce and like look at pictures of their kids and all the story that I mean it's almost becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like when you say it goes too fast, doesn't it go too fast? Life goes too fast. Everything moves too fast. Why is it going so fast? It's stop worrying about how fast it's going because the more time you spend saying how fast it's moving and wanting it to be the way it was or worrying about the way it's going to be, you're never going to be where you are in the present moment where things honestly slow down. Even though they keep moving, things just slow down because now you're not flying by things like oh my god, I got to be here, be there, all over the place where you're just experiencing what's happening. Even though clock time doesn't slow down obviously, but your perception of it does. You have a lot more appreciation for what's happening. You're anchored in what's happening a lot more. You're actually experiencing, you have more clarity in that moment of what's happening instead of, you know, the like you said, it takes 3 seconds to go from do you remember when they were oh and now you're a ball of tears, which obviously is a natural emotional response for a lot of people, and that's fine. But then attaching to that, sticking with that, and not and literally suffering it and carrying it like a backpack. Nah, this is it. No, no, no. I need life to be the way it was. I need life to be the way it was. Well, then you're not living. It's like, do you want to worry about dying in life, or do you want to live life? So you have two
yeah.
choices. You could worry about dying your whole life, or you could live life. And I mean, things just so many doors open up. Everything looks different. Everything feels different. You know, so it's yeah. I
I,
mean, yeah, you
I
could suffer
remember
in a second. You know,
I told you one day that there are times where I suffer about because I think about my death,
yeah, with your kids worrying about your family. I
and
remember. Yeah,
you told me, what are you worried about? And I'm like, just leaving everybody behind. I don't know what I'm leaving behind. I don't know how they're. He's like, well, uh, what about it? I'm like, oh, I don't know what the future is gonna hold. And you're like,
uh-huh.
well, what were you worried about before you came into the world?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm like, I have
You
no
didn't
idea.
know. Yeah, I mean, you didn't. It's listen. We all have like there's a certain level of concern that you want things to be. Obviously, if you have kids, right, like you do and I do, sure. If we something was to happen to us at a younger age, you know, you'd want to do your best to put your family in a good position. That's understandable. That's actually an intelligent thing to do. That's a very responsible thing to do. I'm all for that. But then it's goes, like you said, and you said it 3 minutes ago, where it goes from that to here. The switch goes from planning for, an unfortunate demise like that, where you want your family to be in a good position, to suffering it now. And now you're like, oh, what happens? How are they going to be if something happens to me? What happens if I'm not around? What happens if she's not around? What happens if they're not around? Well, now you've gone from trying to plan for something and give somebody a soft landing spot if something was to happen, to trying to having it consume you, to answer a question that, by the way, there's no answer to.
Hmm.
You can't stop from happening. You have no control over, to a certain extent. So where's this invested energy into? It's like punching a concrete wall constantly, expecting your fist to win.
Right.
Like you're punching a 10-inch concrete wall, unless you're the Hulk, which none of us are, expecting your fist. Well, you do have a T-shirt that says Hulk. Maybe I'll give them a better example. But it's in other words, it's pointless. It's investing energy into something that it's just being expended needlessly. And I know what you said before, that if people who are tuning into this are like, dude, this guy sounds like a dick. Like, he's saying it doesn't matter if people die. No, it's not what I said. I said it's sad when people die. We all miss people that we love and we care about. But I choose to experience them while they're here, and instead of spending my time worrying about when they're not going to be here anymore. And when they're not here anymore, my experience of life doesn't end there. I still honor them. I could honor people I love and I care about. I have many people who've died in my life, and I honor them all, and I love them all, and I care for them all, but I don't suffer them. I appreciate the experiences I had with them, and now I appreciate the experience I'm having right now.
Yeah.
And there's a freedom in that. I mean, I listen, anybody who's had an awakening, anybody who's into some form of spirituality, whether even religious spirituality, will understand that there's a light and an airness about that, where you could love and appreciate somebody you had in your life, but yet not suffer that they're not there anymore, right? And that could be a memory, or a memory of like a kid graduating on a smaller scale, or the death of somebody you care about on a little bit of a larger scale. But the formula doesn't change. It really doesn't. And it allows you to just keep appreciating life as it is, instead of living in the highlight reels of pain and agony,
Yeah.
And it's not
Yeah.
repressing it. We're not talking about repressing. This isn't repressing at all. No.
No, and honestly, if you explain it all like that, and I like, how my mind works. I start to connect dots that don't really go together.
The same as
But
mine. Yes.
but
That's why we get along.
but I'll bring it back to what you said the other day, when you said, if your car starts hydroplaning, you
Yeah.
take your foot off the gas.
Yep.
You take your foot off the gas, and you just try to, you don't jerk the wheel here. You try to just follow the terrain, and don't give the
Overcorrect.
gas, or
Yeah.
don't jam the brake.
Yeah. Don't
You're just
overcorrect.
gonna you're just gonna glide this car into a controllable
Correct.
lane.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing applies, to everything that we've been talking about, where, your mind's gonna want to go, take your foot off the gas, consciously, and direct your attention to where you want your attention to be. And same thing with what you were
Yeah.
saying with, insisting or harping on a story of your relationship with this person, and there you are. What was so beautiful is now just tormenting and just
That's a
weighing
great way to put it.
down.
Yeah. You
You
lose the
know,
beauty. You lose the beauty of a relationship, of an object you might own, of anything, once you attach to it. You lose the beauty of what it is, right? Something is beautiful, and life is a great experience, because nothing lasts forever. So needing that attachment for things to be always a certain way is what creates pain on any level. It creates suffering on any level. Instead of saying, I'm going to experience, and hopefully I get to experience it for 90 years with my family, right?
yeah,
Hopefully. I don't have any control over that, but hopefully.
yeah. Could be
But
120.
it
It
could be
could
100, it
be
could be less.
60.
I don't,
Yeah,
yeah. So, but I'm going to experience that moment, in the next moment, and the next moment with my family, for as long as I can, as long as that run happens, or whatever changes in my life. Instead of saying, oh, this attachment to, I am this, and my family is this, and my friends are this, and my possessions are this, and that's who I am. And if I, we always heard it, right? I used to say it too. Like when my son first started playing baseball when he was like 8, 9 years old, and the first couple of years when they turned 12, I remember when we went to Cooperstown. At the end of that tournament, I cried I bawled where the kids actually all came around and hugged me. I bawled, and it was, and this was when I was in the middle of my hell. Like I had just started to work my way out. It just started, so I was still in
You
the
were
infinite
peaking,
stages.
let's say.
Huh?
You were peaking. Like at that moment, you were like peak, peak torture.
Yes, peak torture, and I was just starting to start my journey. Like I was the infinite present of starting my journey to where I was going. And I started bawling, and I wasn't bawling because I appreciated what happened, or it wasn't like an emotion of wow, this is an amazing experience. While it was right, it was a
It
great.
was.
For me, it was pain and suffering of something is coming to an end, and I don't know what to do now. Like what was protecting me for the last 2 3 years of like planning all these games and being with these families, which was a great time, and hanging out with all my friends. For me, it was the end of an era, and that end of an era wasn't like a wow. Like now, if I did it, it'd be like I might cry, but it would be a tear of an emotion that was there, but no attachment to what happened, but an appreciation for what I experienced. There was an appreciation, but it wasn't an appreciation for my experience. It was an appreciation for the people around me, but I was suffering what I was about to lose. All my like I figured, okay, this is it. This is where it changes a little bit. The kids are older, the game's going to change, our structure is going to change, and things aren't going to be the way they were. I was in pain that day because I wanted things to go back to when they were 8. Like I wanted to hit rewind right there and
Yeah.
go back to 8 and do it again. And I mean, until this moment, I didn't even realize that when I cried that day, the more we're talking about it, I just kind of brought it up. I was crying that day, not because, like, if I cried now when something happens, and that I'm a very empathetic person, so I tear up very easily,
Yeah.
but it's
Same.
more because I'm appreciating something. Back then, it was, this can't end. This can't end. Like, this can't end. I don't know what I'm going to do if this ends. That was pure suffering. That was just 100% pain. There
Not
was
to
no
mention,
joy in that moment, even though it felt like there might have been. For me, it was just,
not to
yeah.
mention,
So,
you remember what you were to that team. You were the Godfather. So
yeah.
l-
This sounds so
literally,
bad, but
literally, you were the beating heart that
I,
you were the
I,
nerve. Well, you were the backbone that all the nerves stemmed from. Honestly, so imagine now yourself, because you were very like I was identified by that team.
oh, yes.
So
I was a hitman through
imagine
and through. Yeah.
imagine that you had two things going on: the obvious growing of the boys, and who's going to continue,
Yeah.
who's not, who's going to go to over here. So all that stuff. But on top of that, your identity is being taken or ripped out or
Ripped out of my
changing,
hands. Yeah.
right? I mean, that's got to be because again, you weren't at that point. You weren't on the other side.
No, dude. No, no.
You were
I was
still
in the, I was still in the
clouded, and
throes
you were
of
still
unconsciousness. Yeah. Which is why it was so tough. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's like vivid as like it just happened 2 seconds ago. It was where we were about to say goodbye, and Mac had just finished. Coach McCorkle had just finished talking to everybody, and I just literally went down on a knee. He thanked me. He said, "Thank Coach John for everything he's done," and I just boom. That's it. I lost it
yeah.
because I had visions of now what do I like. What was in my mind was now what do I do? Now how do I protect myself? Now where do I sink myself? Now where's my any kind of joy or happiness going to come from? Like that's what I was suffering. Like I wasn't even saying what a great like I wasn't even reflecting on what a great experience it was, and it was right. That week in Cooperstown was such a great. I was more, please don't let it end. Please don't let it end. And dude, that's a pain. That's like pain written all over it. There's nothing light and airy about that. That was yeah.
Everything that led up to that moment also was unhealthy in the sense the attachments, the story, you had an attachment and you had a story built around, and again, we don't know it when we're in it. you
No,
know
I had no idea.
we only know it after, or let's say when you have an awakening, when you have an enlightening. and then you realize, oh my god, and you want to just like what happened to Michael Locasto when we were talking to him. Then I said, if you can go back and speak to your 12-year-old self, so that you can
Yeah.
process it differently. So if you can go back and you could speak to, at that point you were probably 40, I don't know, 42, 41 or whatever.
When they were probably 42.
Right. So if
Yeah,
you can go back
42.
and speak to your 42-year-old self, so that, you know, it doesn't have to be that gut wrenching,
No, man, it could have been so as great of an experience as all of baseball was, right? For me personally, from my experience,
everything you
it
say
was a
is
great
double
six,
because
yeah, it was a
I
great six,
agree.
7 years. That's a great family, it's a great time. But it could have been so much different in a much more joyful way than a much more I need this right now way, right? Like for me, it was a necessity, even though it was a great time and the people were great and we had an awesome time and the kids were great and we forged friendships that are going to last forever. For me, it was a necessity more than it was an experience and an appreciation for what I was actually going through,
Yeah.
right? I'm just glad I didn't like project that onto my kid at all. Somehow, by the universe, I don't know, must have said, we're not going to let you fuck this one up, John, and it just didn't let me project it onto my son, where I kind of let him guide his own ship, even through that. Like in other words, I didn't force him to stay in baseball because I wanted him to, right? Um, so yeah, I mean, that's
Well,
a,
the way I interpreted all that from you was that you were an amazing like dad who completely you brought some skills that no other dad had, obviously, and you put those skills to work. And I was one of the beneficiaries of everything you did, and that's why that's why we hold you, all of us, in the Godfather, let's say, status, because
Godfather.
you what you did. I know that you look at it now, and you look at it, I was nuts, you know, but I mean, we don't take that for granted. Guys like Lou and
No,
me,
no,
and
I know there was always an appreciation from
I mean,
everybody.
you kidding me? We like you made it happen, and so yes, you were nuts.
It was a Scott. Like you always said with Scott Adams, right? The basket case theory.
Yeah,
Well, this guy's got his shit together,
absolutely.
right?
You
Right.
were you were the example of the
I was
basket
the
case
example
theory.
of what you said episodes ago, right?
Yeah,
Oh, this guy's got his shit together. Look at him.
yeah.
Owns a company, tournaments, scheduling this, on the
John,
ball. Yeah, dude, my
the
shit
only
was.
thing missing from you was a cape, because
Is it?
I
Yeah,
swear to you,
yeah.
you were
I would have
Superman.
used it to fly off a building if I had a cape.
You,
That's all I would have
you
done.
were Superman, and
Yeah, no, I
to
was.
me, it was like, wow,
It
like,
was. It was. It was for me. It was literally how do I numb the pain by doing something else?
yeah,
How do
yeah,
I
yeah,
numb the pain by doing something else? How do I numb the pain by doing something else? And something great came out of it. Don't get me wrong. And again, I enjoyed it. I loved it. It was great to be around everybody. But for me, the driving mode, it was the dual driving motivations. One was, yes, the kids, right? I was always all about the kids. That was 100% heartfelt. Like I wanted them to have a great experience. I really did. Like I wanted this to be something awesome for all these kids. But the other one, like there was two reasons I was doing this, and there were parallels. One was, yes, the kids have to have a great time, and I wanted this experience to be phenomenal for them, so they have these great memories, something that they could treasure, that they experience in their life. And the other one was, I need to fucking survive. Like this is how I'm breathing right now. I need to keep breathing. Like I got to breathe. If I don't have this, how do I breathe? Like that was it.
yeah,
That was my straw that had over the water that I was sucking air in, and that was it. Like for four
yeah.
years, that was it. But
Oh
so
yeah,
if I could pull a Michael Acosta and go back, what would I tell myself? Be, dude, enjoy the experience. Don't need it to be like a certain way. Just enjoy, and there would have been it would have been something that I would have appreciated while it was happening instead of
yeah,
mourned it as it was ending.
yeah. And same here, because I told you, although I enjoyed those times and they were ridiculously
Oh
beautiful times,
yeah, man.
I didn't also, because I was going through my own.
Yeah,
I'm
we used to
still going
have.
through my own.
That's where our talk started.
Right. So think about it. So like I was there, and I'm there, anxious, picking my fingers, and just the usual ruminations of you know of what the anxious people do. And you don't want that for yourself, and
Nah.
you want a better situation for yourself, and that's why we air our dirty laundry on this. We do this so that people can relate to what we say, and then kind of pick up and use what we're kind of talking about and apply it to their own life, and hopefully have a a better situation, have a better appreciation of what
That's
goes
I
on.
love that word. Yeah, and I love that word. I love the word appreciation over, appreciating the experience. And like, so this takes us a little bit back, and then we'll start to wrap it up. This takes us a little bit back into the early part of the episode when we were saying like the attachment to somebody when they pass away, the attachment to an object, the attachment to anything is in this. It's a need for it to be a certain way, and in that need, there's only pain and suffering, because once it's gone, there's a mourning of what was, and not a joy for what is, right? So I have a cousin, real quick, and it's a quick story, who might be he's a very level-headed person, right? So he's very level-headed. He's not overly emotional as far as like he doesn't like swing left or right. He tends to be pretty balanced. Both his parents died within 6 months of each other. He was with his mother. She died of cancer in the hospital when she passed away. 6 months later, his father had a heart attack in front of him at the kitchen table after they left my house. They were at my house. They went home to his house. His father was living with him at that point because his mother passed away. Father had a massive heart attack while they were talking and died in front of him. Both his parents died in front of him, his own eyes. I mean, so that's a lot for somebody to want to this day, you know what he says? He'll always say, he goes, I'm happy to have experienced. He goes, and this is where I was trying, and he's not a person who's into all the spirituality. He's just not into it. But I'm happy I was there to experience both those moments. And most people, when he says that, go like this. Fuck are you talking about? You're happy you were there to experience them? And I'll look and I go, I get what you're saying. He goes, I was there to
Yeah.
experience the end of two great lives who I appreciated and was there with them for their whole lives. He goes,
He
I'm
deeply understands it.
yeah, he without realizing he understands it. Like, so when I talk about like you're not your mind, he'll go like this to me. The fuck you talking about? I don't get that. But he embodies somewhat of what it means when he says that. So
Yeah.
he says, I appreciate the fact that I had the opportunity to experience their death. So I mean, so that kind of ties into what I was saying before, because he's not more. While he mourned losing them, sure, there's a tear and there's a sadness. He didn't mourn their lives. He's like, okay, like I got to experience something great, and now I'm going to continue experiencing life as it comes. So that's kind of what I was trying to say before, and that's a real life example for
Yep.
somebody who's not into spirituality, doesn't know who the hell Eckhart Tolle is, doesn't understand any of the shit that I talk about with him, kind of looks at me like I'm crazy when I say stuff, but still understands it, right? So that's just a
I'll tell you real quick. It was a few months ago. I was in a funeral in Long Island, and I told my wife and my family and my kids. I said, you know, should should there be a funeral and I'm the one that died,
I'm in the box.
I want you guys to celebrate it. Like
Yes.
I don't want you guys to be all teary eyed. No, I want happiness. I want you guys thinking that's my dad. Remember when I want that. I don't want you know. But you can't shake that.
No, that's
You
gotta
can't
the
shake that.
the person has to make that choice on their own. The ego is the one that is gonna. So the ego is a part of the person that's gonna say, "I want you all to cry when I'm dead." Like, you people have to. Like, I've heard people say, "When I die, you better fucking be crying over my grave."
Oh, the opposite.
The
The
opposite.
opposite.
I told my wife, I go, I don't want a funeral. I don't want a
No,
wake. I don't want a
celebrate.
church. I don't want. I go. You're gonna go to a hall, invite 50 of my closest friends, smoke cigars, have a few drinks, and eat a fucking massive feast that night. I
Yeah.
go. You're gonna. I want you to celebrate the experiences that we had together. And
Right.
there's going to be tears and there'd be sadness. And of course, there's going to be emotions. Absolutely. And
Give me a
experience
send
those
off.
emotions too. Huh?
Right. Give me a proper happy send off.
Yeah.
Don't give me
Experience the
a
emotion.
wait we can,
Well,
you know, we're,
so
you
that's
know,
the whole Italian, right? The like mourn for 3 days, and the women in Italy wear black the rest of their lives. That's it's like saying now I suffer. My husband
the
died when he
rest.
was 50. For the next 30 years, I'm wearing
Uh
black
huh.
every day. Now I suffer.
Uh
Now
huh.
you suffer. Why? I don't. Why would you want to? Why would you want to carry around this darkness with you for the rest of your life? You could remember that person, appreciate them, love them, miss them, but yet still live your life fully, not like with this badge of death on you.
Yeah.
Stuff that I don't understand.
And you
It's
remember in the old days, like you would walk up to the old grandma or the old aunt who lost her husband, and you'd want to crack a joke, and everybody'd be like, "John, you don't joke." I mean, whoa, what do you mean? She lost her husband a month ago. Okay, a month ago. I mean, we don't move on. We don't like. You can't say a joke. Like it's a joke. Like literally, I'd
it
get.
was yeah. It
It would
needs
be
to be
me
death
getting
and
yelled at for that.
yeah. No, no. I put and listen. It was the mentality. Was what It was what it was. This is what they knew. But hopefully, going forward, we kind of get back to maybe what was before life became this hectic and identity riddled, where things need to be a certain way. Before
Yeah.
we knew any of this shit, we didn't know any of this shit. We didn't.
Yeah.
The caveman, when walking around, he would lose somebody, he would go on and live his life,
Yeah.
and not in a
Yeah.
cold way, but like in a okay, now I experienced my life. I could, and then we became identified with everything, and all this fun stuff started. So anyway,
Dinosaur eat wife.
yeah.
Keep going.
I'm glad we've evolved out of that, but but at the same time,
Yeah.
a lot of all that. So I mean, again, that's what this whole episode was about, right? Attachment, identification, and how you went from your story of to how do I stay present for my son's party today and not get engrossed in work or whatever it might be,
Yeah.
to that same formula that works for that is the same formula that works for death, for attachment to objects, attachment to people, attachment to memories, attachment to everything. It's just watching
Yeah.
the stories play and saying, I want to be here right now.
We keep seeing the same techniques. We keep seeing the same themes. It's just a matter of employing them
Yeah.
and doing doing them so that we actually once you tickle the other side and you realize, wow, and you have this new perspective and this new ability, this new, gift, you almost, like we said, you never go back to the other
No,
unconscious side. And it's a beautiful thing. I mean,
it is.
even
Yeah,
that
no, it is.
that morphing is so beautiful,
It
you know.
is. It absolutely is. And I only hope that more and more people get to experience that you know,
Time.
while there's time in their lives where they can experience it and lessen the amount of suffering. There's I forgot the name of the guy on Instagram, but there's this monk on Instagram who says, he goes, being great at something isn't important. Like whether you're a master at your talent, or whether you're the best of this, or whether you're the richest, or whether you're the best looking. He goes, the most important part of life is, he goes, have I in my lifetime been able to reduce the suffering of the people around me? He goes, if I've been able to reduce the suffering of the people around me, I have lived a good life,
It's a
or I
good
have lived
measure.
a meaningful life. It
Hmm.
doesn't matter how much you've accumulated or how many awards you've won or your accomplishments. Those are all great. That's fine. It's no problem. That's great things to shoot for. But have I reduced or have it created suffering for those? If I'm creating suffering for those around me, even if I think like I'm doing it in a beneficial way, but if I'm creating suffering for those around me, ha, what am I doing? And what am I doing wrong here? Because the point is, we should be reducing the suffering of people around us. So, anyway, I think that's a good place to end it. And we might do our first visual guided meditation. This could be
Yeah.
awkward. I don't
Well,
have any cool background music yet. We'll get to that.
not at
Or we can
all.
play in the background.
Not at all awkward. I think it's good because, again, people that are tiptoeing the line of unconscious, conscious, they get to see, if they stick around and they do this guided meditation, they're now going to be able to see it. And it's kind of like, well, this is how you would look doing it too.
Yeah.
It sounds, what I'm saying sounds ridiculous, but it's not. There's a lot of people that are so used to carrying their anguish and putting on a good face about it, and not even, let's say, trying to meditate or trying because they're just scared of that quietness or that moment that, we're going to do it in front of you right now. It's there's nothing to be,
Yeah, exactly.
nothing to be scared about. Just honestly, once you do it, you try it, and you feel
Experience it. Yeah, man.
you feel that little pinch of better. It's nice.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So with that said, let's get to it. All right. So first, thanks everybody for listening in again. I hope you like this new format. We're gonna try to be sticking with it for a while and see how things keep morphing as we ride into our trip or our journey into infamy as we become famous eventually. Get our
Infamy,
10 million subscribers and get our
notoriety.
network deals. But that's in the future. We're not there yet. We're here now, enjoying what's happening, enjoying this moment. So, okay, here we go. So everybody sit as I'm seating in a chair. So I'm just gonna fix my posture. Start by taking a couple of deep breaths. 2-3 second inhale, 2-3 second hold, and the 2-3 second exhale. It's that nice rhythm. So start taking those breaths as I kind of guide us through this. Deep inhale, hold it. And remember, we're concentrating. As you keep breathing, you're concentrating and you're focusing on that breath. So your focus is on the breath as you're doing that, right? Not on anything else. If a thought pops in, if an image or a memory is popping in, if a concern, bring your focus back to your breath, and you'll start to feel or notice this watcher, this presence that's there, seeing these thoughts pass through your mind. Just keep taking those inhales. Hold. Exhale. And if you're holding any tension, I do it in my shoulders every time. Release that tension if it's in your eyebrows, your forehead, your jaw. Some people don't even realize sometimes their hands are clenched. Just release any tension where you feel in your body. Notice it. No judgment. Just notice and release. Notice, notice, notice. That word is so important. Once you start noticing things, you start to lose that attachment to them. You start to be able to appreciate them, experience them, choose to want to engage them or not. Bring your focus right back to your breath if you want. If you want to do a body scan, that's fine also. It's really a personal preference, like we always say. I personally like listening to noises around me. I bring my attention to a noise in the distance, car passing, a bird chirping, and just notice it. Not attached to it, not label it, and just notice it, and then start to pick another sound out, or maybe multiple sounds at the same time. Let's take a couple of more. Last exhale. And you can slowly open your eyes and stay here if you want. But we are going to, Henry, hang on when we're done. When we finish, just hang on a second. And when I hit record, don't leave like you did last time. Don't disappear. All right. So we're going to call it a day, guys, or else have a great day. Have a great week. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
See you next one.
The insights and discussions that we speak about on our show are our own opinions and based on our life experiences. If you or someone in your family or someone you know is suffering and in need of help, please get them that help through medical attention or seeking proper therapy. Again, what we speak about are based on our experiences and not intended to be taken as a form of therapy. Thank you.